Live from Happy Valley Studios, this is the MCS1 Show. And now your host, the guy who voted for Nader twice, MCS1.
Welcome to the MCS1 Show. I'm MCS1.
And this is Caleb again.
And we're going to do another week of great topics. So, as we said last week, we have some wonderful announcements.
Big ones.
Big ones. So, the first one, probably the biggest one. Actually, we have several. Let's start small and work our way up.
Okay. Like a pyramid kind? No,
yeah.
Reverse pyramid.
Sure. Reverse pyramid scheme. If you send us some money and get more people to join our show, we'll send you some money, but not as much as you give us. And anyway, I'm going to edit that out. So, okay. So with our announcements, the first thing is we now have an email address set up for the show.
Sweet. So
we can now accept any fan mail or hate mail that you have for us. Questions, suggestions on show topics, anything you want.
Even hating.
Yeah. Whether it will get read or not remains to be determined.
Yeah, we're not sure about that yet.
Yes.
So, sorry.
So please reply to MCS1 junk mail. No. Our email address is actually the MCS1 show at gmail.com. So it's MCS, and then MCS, and then the number 1 at Gmail, then show at gmail.com. So feel free to send us any hate mail, fan mail, questions about shows or anything.
Suggestions for topics even. I
mean, and if they're really good, we might even read them on the air. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Yeah, I mean...
Maybe.
Maybe, if we need a space filler.
Yeah.
Or like the end of the show.
If we're lacking a few minutes.
Yeah, or if you want to advertise on our show as well, send us the information there, and we will discuss with you further about that.
Absolutely.
So, another announcement that we have, also, this is probably the biggest one. Actually, this isn't the biggest one because we're starting out. Next year, what we're going to do is we're going to have a new show every week as well. A new episode streaming every week. We're gonna record a couple things in advance, and I'm going home over the holidays back to Iowa to talk with a bunch of my friends, and we're going to record some new shows. That's our actual New Year's resolution that will get fulfilled.
Yes,
so we will have a new show every week. There will be no more reruns, as has been said. So we're actually calling that, my producer and I, we have called this Season 2 of the MCS1 show.
Yes.
And that will start airing New Year's Day is when we will air those. So, another one that we would like to mention, this is probably our biggest announcement. A lot of people have been talking to me about this, and I finally caved in. A lot of people they like the idea of an internet radio show, but a lot of people have been requesting that it is archivable or on a podcast or something online where they could listen to it whenever they want. Well, your wish has been granted. We are now in the process of putting the MCS1 show on iTunes.
Yes, we are.
The biggest news yet. So it should be up soon, within about a month. And we're going to put all the episodes that we've aired. And what we will do is each new week when a new episode comes out, after it airs on Wednesday, on Thursday, it will be on iTunes, available for download.
So be on the lookout, everybody.
Yeah, and we will have more information about that in the following weeks. So wishes have been granted. Those are the big announcements. Caleb is also engaged. I guess that's a big announcement.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
It's pretty huge.
Sort of. I mean, if you're into that.
Yeah, if you're into that. So today, now moving on to the show. Let's get down to business, people. Today's topic is dealing with bad roommates.
A very sensitive topic indeed.
Yes. Now, for my opening remarks, I don't have anything specific, but I have lived. I want to talk about some things I've lived with, some people. I have lived with a very fair share of people. I have lived with great roommates, but I've also lived with 18-year-olds, crackheads.
As we talked about last week.
Yes, a 35-year-old who was addicted to World of Warcraft, and a guy in the military who is completely oblivious to everything around him. So this week, we're going to talk about how to deal and cope with these people, especially messy roommates, because it's hard, like when you have a messy apartment.
It really is.
Or whatever, because like you want to bring over company, and then it's messy.
Yeah, and at the same time, you really don't because you're afraid to be embarrassed.
Yes, exactly, which is unfortunate. So, let's just kick out the show. Caleb had a story that he mentioned to me before the show started that he would like to share.
Yes, I did. So I had a roommate back in the day, and I think everybody knows these people. It's the one-upper. You know, no matter what you say, no matter what it is, it could be something they have no idea. You know, like they don't know what you're talking about, and they'll just make up a story, even if it makes no sense. It's just, no matter what, it's just no matter what you say, they always have something better to say.
Yeah. So you had a roommate like this, I take it. Oh, I had one like that, only worse. See, what happened was. Anyway, go on.
No, so no, there was this. Okay, so for instance, his catchphrase, and I swear, if they ever made a sitcom about his life, it would be called the "You Don't Even Know" show.
You don't even know shit.
Because no matter what you would say,
like a bad trivia game show.
All of a sudden, like no matter what you said, he'd just be like, "You don't even know." Like I did 10 times worse than you.
Like that fast, like Chris Tucker fast.
Like Chris Tucker fast.
Whoa!
And then he would put his hands out in front of his body, his two fingers, like the pointer and the middle finger, pointing out, and he'd flap them like they're like chicken wings or something. And he'd just flap them, and he would just be like, "You don't even know." You don't even know. Like you don't even know. Like I have this radio show that's 10 times better than yours.
You don't even
like
know.
We had podcasts last year. You don't even know.
Way before you got conned into finally putting it on iTunes.
Okay, so like there was this one time when I was talking about how you know, and we were, you know, all of my roommates were getting together. We were talking about our athletic experience, you know, and I played, you know, on basketball teams, things like that. And I was talking about how this, you know, we used to have to run these things called Sweet 16s, which if you know anything about basketball, basically it comes out to just a lot of running. And it was hard, you know, and I was just telling them, you know, everybody this story. Everybody else was listening, paying attention. They all had already told their stories, and all of a sudden, I wasn't even done. Like I was in the middle of telling them about my running, and then all of a sudden he's like, "You don't even know, dude. You don't even know."
I want to get a soundbite of this "you don't even know" thing and just throw it in random episodes.
I'd love to put it as my ringtone for when I get texts. You don't even know. You don't even know who's texting you. So anyway, so he, you know, we were just. In the middle of my story, he just goes, "You don't even know." And then he like says, "Have you guys ever heard of 50s?" And I was like, it was a decade.
Is it like a restaurant or something? Is that why he's implying? Or?
Are there? I have no. And then he's like, 50s are in football. It's like, okay, you know the length of a football field is obviously 100 yards. Everybody knows that. And
you don't even know.
And I was like, "You don't even know." No, and I was like, actually, technically, it's longer because of the end zone. And he's like, "You don't even know. Like, it's 100 yards. Don't question." And then he's like, 50s are when you run the width of the field because it's 50 yards and you run it 50 times in your pads in Arizona, which is where I live.
Arizona.
And I was just like, I mean, I was just sitting there.
When the sun's up at high noon.
I know, and I'm like, okay, this sounds like, first of all, sounds like a pity story. Well, and my thought was, you know, I wasn't telling my story to complain. I was actually telling my story because I was like, yeah, I did a lot of running and it helped me, you know, get into better shape. And he starts just telling this story like it's, woe is him, you know, worst day of his life.
Well, you don't even know,
his coach is totally picking on him, and I didn't even know because I had never had that experience. And then he was just like, oh, and then there's, I mean, sometimes when you mess up and your coach makes everyone else run 50s and he doesn't let you because, you know, he just wants you to remember that your teammates are taking it for you. it's just the
I
worst
would
feeling
purposely,
ever.
Like,
and I was like,
upset everyone so they could all run, and I would sit
Absolutely.
back with a glass of lemonade.
that's what I'm saying. And then anyway, so
I
then
hate you guys. Have fun.
and so he was, he was telling that, and then as I did that, it was so funny. One of my other roommates turns his back to him and like looks right at me, and he wipes a fake tear away, and I just cracked up. And this guy goes, "What are you laughing about?" And I was like, "You didn't even know." And so like and it was just every time, like the kid had the grades of a second grade retarded monkey in high school. I mean, I was just like, and he was just like, yeah, applied mathematics was such a hard class. And I was like, what grade did you take that? And he was like, oh, I was in 11th. And I was like, that's an 8th grade math class, right?
I'm pretty bad at math, but I was done my sophomore year in high school.
Well, but the thing is, too, is it's like, applied mathematics. I'm sorry, yes, 2 plus 2?
Oh, it's like tech. We call that tech math at my high school.
Right, okay.
Which I loved. Wasn't useless like algebra.
Okay. Well, fair enough, but and he would just, like I told him, and then there's other time I was talking about this tough class. I took AP chemistry,
Okay.
my junior year. And I was telling my roommates, about how hard it was, because it was tough. It was an extremely tough class, and I had one of the better chemistry teachers in the state. But it's not like he made it easy. It was just that he knew how to teach it. But chemistry is just hard.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those subjects that you could have the best teacher in the world, and it's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
And he comes in and he goes, "You don't even know tough classes, dude. I had the toughest. I had the toughest classes ever."
For those who are at home, I was taking a drink of water and almost choked on it when Caleb said, "You don't even know."
So, but no, it's just it was.
We're gonna get a soundbite of that and randomly play it in shows on playback.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just whenever something comes
like you
up,
don't even know, Caleb.
Yeah, you don't even know. You don't even know, Mark. Like radio shows, sound bites. Dude,
know.
I have like 10.
Okay.
100.
So anyway, back to the story.
Okay, so he goes, and he goes, "You don't even know." And he tells us about this like applied mathematics class, and I'm just sitting here just going, applied mathematics? I'm sorry, my 5-year-old brother could pass that class blindfolded with earplugs in, okay?
But he was also homeschooled, so he's obviously smarter.
Obviously.
Yeah.
No, but it's just come on. Like, applied mathematics when you're in 11th grade, and here's the worst part about it. He's like, yeah, I think I only got like a C-. Like, I barely passed. And I was like, you don't even know. Like, that's not even...
Oh man! So when I lived with speaking of bad grades with the crackheads,
okay.
Bad grades. So like when I lived with the crackheads, one of them, one day, he was like the way to really deal with roommates is honestly to put your foot down and don't be afraid to narc, because they'll hate you and they'll call you a narc, but what happens afterwards? The problem is usually solved and you don't have to deal with them,
or they get kicked out. Which
exactly. The problem is solved.
The problem is solved.
So, one of them, they were like smoking dope or whatever in the backyard one day, and like honestly, the neighbor kids could see it, and they were like little kids, and I was like, "Dude, you guys shouldn't be doing this."
That is so horrible.
It was awful, and I put my foot down. I'm like, "You guys need to knock it off." And he's like, "Well," he tried giving this speech. He was like, "Well, in certain cultures, certain things just aren't acceptable. Like for Tongans, it's kava. For Chinese, it's opium. For Asians, it's opium, and for us, it's marijuana. And the speech really went nowhere. And so I go, okay, that's really cool, but
what does that have to do with you smoking?
Yeah,
in
what's
front
that
of
to do with you
children?
have to be smoking in the backyard? And all of a sudden, he goes to this big speech about, "Do you think I'm smart?" And I was like,
no.
What? He goes, "Do you think I'm smart?" I'm like, well, I guess.
Is that when you said, "You don't even know"?
You don't even know. I should have. And I just kind of wanted him to shut up at this point. But later on, he's talking, and then he gave me his big speech about how smart he was and about the first time he smoked weed with his sister.
Why does that make him smart?
I didn't, and the story went nowhere. Cool story, bro. And so, anyway, so later on, he was hanging out with all these crackheads, and he was talking about how smart he was, and then he was bragging about how he got a C. No, he passed the class with a D.
Okay.
And bragging about how smart he was.
What class was it?
I don't know. He was a business major. Boring. So I can't. And being a previous business major, I can't imagine he struggled too much, or at all. But being a crackhead, he probably struggled a lot.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's like roommates that like claim to be smart or whatever. They're usually pretty dumb. And so anyway. So let's go to the dirty roommates.
Oh yeah, love them.
Yeah. So basically, what you need to there's always there's a couple things you could do. You could either put your foot down, or like if you want to be subtle about it, just doesn't work the best. But you could be passive, really aggressive.
Yep.
Example: we had a marker board above my kitchen, in our kitchen, above the sink. So I had it basically say on there. I drew a hangman character, and then I wrote some stuff in there, and I omitted a couple letters in there. But basically, what it came out is do the f***ing dishes, and so, but I omitted the F, and a couple other random letters, and I wrote some letters down like the guy was starting to be hung, and so they saw that and they're like, "Oh, you didn't," and I was like. It's open to interpretation of what you think it says, but odds are, seriously, come on.
Is that when he was like, "You don't even know, my hangman looks 10 times better."
But and that was in the apartment where I had a one-upper, and so anyway, in the same apartment, one of my roommates, he was 35 and divorced. They talked about everything he lost in the divorce, and then my other roommate one day, was the one-upper, and this is where he pretty much said,
"You don't even know."
Yeah, he said that kind of thing. And then he's like, "Oh, I lost this Magic the Gathering card set that was worth about $20,000 or whatever."
Okay.
Yeah. But the best part about this is then he proceeds to tell us
you don't even know
that apparently one set is worth like $2,000 alone, but and another set's worth $3,000 alone. But together with both these sets, they're worth $20,000,
which makes no sense mathematically.
Makes no sense mathematically, at all.
Well, normally when you combine things, at least when I combine things in packages,
they're usually cheaper.
They're cheaper.
Yeah, 2 for 1 deal.
Yeah, exactly. When you're like a shoe store and it's like buy one get one half off. It's like, oh, okay, 2 shoes for the price of 1.5.
So, but back to this roommate, and then I lived in what's called for those of you who don't know. Obviously, we live in Happy Valley. And so we don't go to this school. It's called Brigham Young University, but they have a thing called the BYU Honor Code, which means you can't have people, there's a lot of dumb rules. Like you can't have people of opposite gender in your bedroom or past certain hours. There's a curfew. Lots of dumb rules. Anyway, so this honor code thing, I lived in this housing, and I worked as an RA, as we will discuss in other shows from stories. So I try to generally keep the rules.
Right.
And so this one guy, his name was, I'm not going to mention his name on the air. What he did was, and he had this girl over once, and she looked like really, I'm not going to lie, she looked pretty scandalous. And so it was a Friday. So he's in her, he has her in his room. And the thing about the student housing thing or whatever, this honor code, is even if we don't go to school and we're not following it, we can still get kicked out of the housing for it.
Right.
Which is stupid and ridiculous. So he's got this girl in his room, and so we go and we tell him, we're like, hey, you can't have her here. Sorry. And so then he comes back. He leaves, comes back an hour, 2 hours later. He comes back and he says, okay, guys, I just want to tell you something. And so he tells us this story about how he's been depressed the last couple of weeks, which he's been fine as far as we knew.
Okay.
He said he's been
But you didn't even know.
Yeah, we didn't even know. Yeah, we didn't even know. And so he's been depressed, and he's been thinking about killing himself.
Okay.
But he's been fine the past couple of weeks. He's been happy and stuff. And he had that girl over to talk, and that's why she was, in his room. But, she was well, my other roommate said, well, we kind of want to believe you, but she was in your bed. And then he goes, she was on my bed.
Which is in your bed.
Yeah, the same thing. Okay, you changed an I to an O. Big deal. And so then he tells us one of my roommates goes, well, dude, we want to believe you, but it's hard because, of this type of thing, and yet you're just telling us now. And it's like, and she was dressed pretty scandalous. His response is, she worked at a costume shop.
Did that costume shop happen to be an exotic costume shop?
Perhaps, but it was Casual Friday, and she was dressed like a hooker on Casual Friday, which, I didn't believe any of this. So we kind of just put our foot down with him. And that's what you got to do. You got to put your foot down. Like, the passive-aggressive thing doesn't really work. It just makes you look like a wiener.
Yep.
I mean, it's funny sometimes. Like, my note on the board
yeah.
was really funny. But another thing is, it's like, getting roommates to clean, it's hard.
It is hard.
We've had to, we're dealing with this semester in my household, and it's hard because we have one person who cleans a lot, which is me. We have two that semi-clean, and that one of those semi-cleans cleans more than the other, and then we have one that doesn't clean or do anything at all.
Sounds
and we've
fun.
had the one,
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's not. And so the one that doesn't clean, we've had to bribe him or whatever, and it's ridiculous. And so I went on vacation to San Francisco a few weeks ago.
Right.
And I came back, and my roommates came back, and we left a few dishes in the sink, but not too many. And the sink was stocked high.
Ew.
When we got back. And also when I moved in, the dishes were stocked high as well. And the first thing I did, honestly, before I even really unpacked, was I did the dishes, because I don't like living in a filthy home.
Yeah.
And so I just I got back, and I was really tired, and I really didn't want to yell at my roommate after I had such a good vacation. And so the next day I woke up, and I just texted him, and I just said, hey man, I know not all the dishes in the sink are yours, and all the trash in the kitchen isn't yours, because it wasn't, but most of it is. Could you clean it up? And we've been cleaning up after him all semester. He's done the dishes maybe 3-4 times. He does them once a month. We do them twice a week, usually. And so we're just tired of cleaning up after him. And his response, I'll help at seeing how some of it is mine, but I'm not going to do it all, since a good chunk was seemingly left for me to take care of while y'all are gone. And then I got his text signature thing. Now, first of all, okay, one, you didn't clean up any of what we left at all. You just added to the pile. So you can't say it was planned for you to be left, because you didn't intend on cleaning it up.
Nope.
And two, it's we've been cleaning up after you all semester, and you can't. Anyway, I answered this in my next text, which I responded to him. I said, dude, meaning wake up. We clean up after you a lot this semester. You do dishes maybe once a month and dirty a lot of them. Same thing with the trash. Is it honestly too much for you to clean up after yourself and pitch in a bit? I got no response. But
It's not, Mark, but you don't even know.
Yeah, you don't even know.
It's been a hard week.
It's been hard. And so he did end up finally doing the dishes and taking out the trash, but he left all the silverware and stuff. And he hand washed all the dishes. So what we did was I just took all the silverware, I threw it on the top rack of the dishwasher, let it run, and took it and dumped it in a drawer. Wasn't hard at all. But you don't even know. And so
we really need a soundbite.
Yeah, we're gonna soundbite that.
Oh man,
we're soundbiting it. So it's really though, you gotta just confront people and be like, dude, because chore wheels and stuff, they don't work.
Nope.
Point systems, it's oh, that's cool that you're in the lead, but I don't have to pick up after you. Don't work. And it's hard to deal with messy roommates and stuff. You got to put your foot down and be like, look, man, seriously. And if they're really being obnoxious about it, report them to either the landlord or the apartment complex people. If you live in student housing, because then you'd be like, look, he's not doing his fair share. This is ridiculous. And most of them are obligated to step in and do something.
Yeah,
I mean, I've had to.
It's kind of their job.
Yeah, it's their job. When I worked as an RA, I had to sit down and make what's called student housing contracts with them. I think is what it's called. Mm-hmm. And it's
right.
Yeah, these people will do the dishes. We agreed on certain room temperature, everything. And if they break it, then they're in violation of it. And then they have to suffer some consequences with their roommates or whatever. You have to set rules. and stuff.
And the other thing too is following up, because I mean, how easy is it to say, hey, it's your turn to clean up, it's your turn to do this, it's your turn to do that.
Yeah.
But then it's like, most people, honestly, it's like, you're not their dad and they're not 8.
Yeah.
So you got to continually to follow up with them, because you can't really like take anything away from them, I guess.
Yeah.
But reporting them never hurt you. I mean, it probably is going to make them angry at you, but it's like,
who cares?
I'm already angry at you for not cleaning up after yourself.
And after a while, after people aren't cleaning up, it's just disrespect is what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
Because they're saying, by you doing, like, wasting your time cleaning up after them, they're saying that their time is more valuable than yours, and that you don't matter. And it's just pure disrespect.
It really
it's not
is.
that they're busy, because, like, honestly, if like you see like roommates, if they're like watching a movie or like wasting time on the internet and stuff, like if they have time to do that, but they don't have time to clean, they're just lazy and they don't care about you.
Yeah.
And that's when you need to put your foot down.
Absolutely.
So,
stamp of approval.
Stamp of approval.
Yes.
You don't even know.
You don't even know. Like, I used to clean up after 10 people.
Yeah.
I lived in a 4-person house, but there were 10 of us there all the time.
Yeah, like they had like girlfriends, and ex-girlfriends there. Like,
yeah,
you didn't even know.
all day, and like I was like counseling in them because they broke up and stuff. And dude, you don't even know. You don't even know.
I love that phrase.
I know, it's great.
What other things about dealing with roommates or whatever? I think mostly like the way to deal with them is honestly to put your foot down. We have a friend. His name is Shane. We're going to try to get him on the show in the next couple weeks.
Yes.
Shane found a way to, if they were really annoying or whatever, to do a certain thing. So here's what happened. Our roommates kept coming up from behind and, like, hugging them and stuff.
Okay.
Kind of uncomfortable. So what Shane would start doing, every time he came up to him, whatever, he'd be like, yeah! Like that. And he would, like, condition him to stop. And it worked.
Wow.
So
random karate yells.
So just random whatever, just like certain little things like that, and condition them, and eventually they'll stop.
Well, and then they'll figure it out. Hey, maybe I shouldn't do that.
Maybe I shouldn't be being a dork like that.
I think it's kind of creepy. Maybe sometimes that I go up behind him and massage him.
Yeah. Like if they haven't learned like social skills by now, if their parents haven't taught them or whatever, it's your turn to pick up the mantle.
Yeah.
And start showing them what's right and what's wrong. Because when they get out into the world, I feel bad for these people, like when they get married.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. No, I had one guy. He was in the military. Huge pig. Awful. Like, he was so obnoxious. And he didn't know it because he wasn't self-aware at all. Like, what he would do is he would blare his music, like, really early in the morning and wake me up. From now, I can never listen to the band Trapped or Creed ever again. I could tolerate them.
Okay.
Same with Kesha as last week. But no matter where I went, like every morning I would wake up and I'd hear "Headstrong, take you on," and it was just like, oh, it was painful. And so, anyway, so there was that, and then like he would stomp around in his combat boots, like while talking on the phone, and like, oh my gosh, and his room was messy. And then when his room got so messy, he came to the he would go into the living room and start sleeping in there and being a mess until we finally put our foot down. We're like, dude, no, enough is enough. Get back in your room, jerk. And that's kind of what we had to do. But
totally.
he oh my gosh, we just had to he was just so oblivious to everything, and it was awful. Like, you have to like sometimes you just gotta tell him,
hey, yeah,
not cool. And I feel bad for him because
yeah.
like he's married now, and I feel bad for his wife. Because
Yeah.
he's so oblivious to everything. But for our closing remarks, I just want to say, like, with roommates, what you need to do is you got to step up. You basically just got to confront them, and if they get upset with you, who cares? Because you're already upset with them, and it's already uncomfortable. Exactly. So you might as well either try to solve it or just be upset all the time. Yeah. Like, it's got to go one way or the other. And, I know it's going to happen with every roommate, but you need to just, be consistent. Yeah, don't waver. That's our show for the day. I would like to thank Caleb for coming today. And and until next time, take care of yourself and each other and live happily. Be safe. Later.